This is the Dave Pamah Show. This is Frontline Truths. Here's what people don't see about potholes. They're not really about roads. They're a signal. A signal that something much deeper in the system isn't working the way it should. Because when something as basic as the road outside your house becomes a voting issue, that tells you the system is starting to struggle with the fundamentals. Right now, across England, Thursday, tomorrow, people are heading to the polls. And one of the biggest issues on their mind isn't something abstract. It's the condition of the roads they use every day. Potholes. Now on the surface, that might sound like a small issue. But when you look at it properly, it's not small at all. Because this is something people experience daily. Driving to work, taking their kids to school, getting from A to B safely. And when that starts to break down, people notice, they feel it, and they start asking questions. Let's break this down simply. Road maintenance isn't just about filling holes when they appear. In a functioning system, it should be regular inspections, preventative maintenance, long-term planning. But that's not what tends to happen. What actually happens is this. Problems are reported. They're assessed. They're prioritised, often based on limited resources. And then they're delayed or temporarily patched. So instead of fixing the root cause or root issue, you're managing it. And over time, those small problems build up. Weather makes it worse, traffic increases pressure, and before long, you've got widespread deterioration. This is the part most people don't see. They see the pothole, they don't see the system behind it. They don't see budget constraints, competing priorities, long-term maintenance being pushed back. They don't see how decisions are made, or how often those decisions are reactive rather than preventative. And from a frontline perspective, this isn't unique. You see this pattern across services. Things aren't maintained properly over time. So when failure happens, it looks sudden. But when it isn't, it's been building. Now bring it back to real life, because this is where it matters. This isn't just about inconvenience, it's damage to vehicles, unexpected costs for families, safety risks for drivers and pedestrians. But it goes further than that. From a frontline perspective, road conditions affect response. Emergency vehicles don't operate in ideal conditions. They're heavy, they're moving under pressure, and when roads are damaged, that adds risk. It affects control, and it affects timing. And those seconds matter. Then there's a wider impact on communities. When basic infrastructure starts to decline, it changes how people feel about where they live. Confidence drops, trust drops, and that's when small issues start to feel like bigger ones. This is where the real issue sits. System breakdown. Because this isn't just about roads. It's about how systems is structured. You've got central funding decisions, local responsibility for delivery, increasing demand, limited resources. And those pressures don't align well. So what happens? Systems shift into survival mode. Instead of maintaining consistently, They react to problems as they appear. And once the system becomes reactive, it's always behind. That's not a road issue. That's a structural issue. And it's the same pattern you see in health services, policing, housing, different sectors. Same underlying problem. So let's look at the global connection. Now zoom out, because this isn't just happening in the UK. You see similar patterns in the US, Canada, parts of Europe, Australia, different systems, different policies, but the same pressure. Infrastructure aging, budget stretched, demand increasing. And when maintenance slips, the consequences show up in everyday life. That's what makes this global. From a frontline perspective, you learn this early. Most major failures don't start big. They start small. And they're manageable at first. But if they're not dealt with properly, they build. And once they build, they're harder, more expensive, and more disruptive to fix. That applies to roads, it applies to services, it applies to systems. So, when people say, why are potholes deciding elections? The real answer is this. They're not voting about potholes. They're responding to what potholes represent. A system that's struggling to maintain the basics. And when the basics starts to go, everything else comes into question. What you see is only part of the story. And that's the Frontline Truth. You've been listening to Frontline Truths on The Dave Pamah Show.